he's saying this to Kelly. He's not just a general who was out on the battlefield. This is a general who gave the ultimate sacrifice to the country in his son. And I don't know, I still don't know if I'll ever be able to wrap my head around all of that. And, I don't know.
Paul.
It's gut check time for America. And John Kelly is delivering a gut punch to Donald Trump that will resonate. And I think it's so significant that he's finally come out and spoken for people to hear his voice. This is what we've been waiting for. The only other shoe to drop might be Mattis, right? Mattis hasn't spoken publicly, I don't think, on the record extensively recently. And that would be another body blow to Trump in the final hours that would particularly resonate with independents in key swing states, many of whom are veterans. But I think I keep stepping back and watching how much this must be hurting because they're attacking him so ferociously. I just came from another network where a partisan governor just crapped on John Kelly like he was nobody. They're crapping on the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the former Secretary of Defense, even, Dick Cheney. I mean, they've all lined up in a circle around Trump, and they're saying the same thing. And John Kelly's son, Robert, was killed by a landmine in Afghanistan. And that has got to be what's motivating him in this moment to ring this bell for all Americans. I'm a father of two boys. The idea of them joining and losing them overseas is incomprehensible to me. But if that did happen, nothing would stand in the way of me telling the truth and communicating the sacrifice of my son to the American people. And that's what he's doing. And it's hitting hard. And he needs to go further. I think if Kamala Harris wants to deliver a closing argument next week, have him there, have Milley there, have McChrystal there, have Dick Cheney there, have Mark Esper there, have everybody in the defense community that has served with Trump and is now opposed to him, and remind everybody that they're gone, and that if Trump is elected, I talked to Tom Bowman in my podcast tomorrow, the Pentagon reporter for NPR, and he says that there are folks who've told him that they're going to leave the Pentagon. They're going to retire if Trump gets elected. The brain drain we will experience in our military is like nothing we've seen if this guy gets elected, except for the folks who will stay inside to try to do what Kelly and Mattis and others do, which is keep them in check. Imagine a world where Trump didn't have Mattis and Kelly and all these guys around him. That's the world we're going to have if he gets elected.
Mike and Paul aren't going anywhere. There's so much more. There's more to play for you. There's more to discuss. There are more people to have this conversation with. Paul, I want you to pick up on that last bit of audio we played from General Kelly about Trump feeling like being around wounded warriors and amputees, quote, doesn't look good for me.
It's all about him. He's all about self, and it's the opposite of the leadership values that we were all trained in the military. That's why so many of these retired generals are calling out his character. Leadership at its core is about sacrifice, and that's something that Trump fails to do. And you can't help but also compare it to the fact that his kids are not that far away in age from Kelly's kids. His kids could have served. His kids could have died in Afghanistan, and they didn't. So it draws that contrast. But the contempt he has for the disabled, for just about everybody, is an insight into who he truly is. But it's also really, really important because he continues to be focused on such important, strangely important situations, like Vanessa Guillen. Vanessa Guillen, who he calls detestable things, sparked a movement. She was murdered brutally at Fort Hood. She's a woman. She's a woman of color, right, who was brutally murdered, that sparked a movement that resulted in the Vanessa Guillen Act that reformed military sexual trauma, sexual harassment in the military. She is a really important, pivotal figure in the transformation of our military. And he says that about her. And he says this about wounded people. So the thing I want folks to remember is the military can feel far off. It can feel like other people's kids. It can feel like the other. But I want to remind people, if he feels that way about us, how do you think he feels about you? The guy or gal who have an average job, or you're just working to make a living, if he feels this way about America's superheroes, how does he feel about you? And I hope that's something that folks remember in the next couple of days when they go to the polls.